It's been 4 freaking years since our favorite or most hated video that ruined lots of children and adults' childhood came out. This is my review of Shed 17. So, like how I did for my Tobias and a Half Pariah and Hero of the Rails review, I'm going to be doing this review with me just messing around with my trains, describing it in not really full detail, but, trying to make it kid friendly or whatever. And because I know some of you guys who are watching this video are probably scared out of your mind of Shed 17, I won't show any footage from the movie to make you guys feel safe. So, before I, tell the story of Shed 17, how about I tell you guys the story on how I found out about Shed 17? So, it was 4 years ago, back in 2015, when Shed 17 first came out. May have been a day or a few days, I can't really remember a whole lot, until I found out about Shed 17. So, I found out about Shed 17 from a YouTuber called Scarlet Reneus. You guys may know who that is because he's more popular than me. Anyways, I believe this was on his original account. I believe he had an original account, but then it got taken down once. I can't remember a whole lot, like I just said. So yeah, he and some other person made a reaction to Shed 17. However, when they were reacting to it, there was no footage from the actual video. Instead, just like a picture of Donald or something. So I couldn't tell what was going on, but I wasn't even paying attention to the video. I was just like skipping. So wasn't listening to what they were saying or what was going on in the background. So yeah. But I was like, I want to know what this Shed 17 is because it sounds Thomas related just because it has the word shed in it. So when I came back from school a few hours later, I decided to see what this Shed 17 was. Went on my iPad, searched in Shed 17, and apparently it was Thomas related. Even though a lot of the thumbnails I saw didn't look Thomas related because they were like trailers. So, found a video that said Thomas the Tank Engine Shed 17. I clicked on it, and as soon as I started watching it, I was immediately bored. So I just started skipping through parts, not really caring what I was seeing in the video. But then I made the biggest mistake. Because I was skipping through the video so much, I skipped towards the scene right where Thomas was about to, jump out of his skin. I skipped to the part where the freaking narrator was talking about like the recent incidents that have happened with the biofuse engines, and then I was immediately scared because I saw Gordon eyes burst out, Edward whistling blood and stuff, and then it cut to Thomas just like rolling to this big green tube. I'm using Henry, and then a skeleton arm pops out, and then Thomas screams and skeleton jumps out of his body. Yeah, that was that for me to just skip through the whole entire video. Yeah, that traumatized me for life. It was because of that scene that made me stray away from Thomas and Friends for about 3 months. I'm not joking, 3 months. While Shed 17 didn't exactly ruin my childhood, it did ruin me from watching Thomas and Friends for a couple of months, so yeah. So, I didn't like Shed 17 like a lot of people didn't, but more people liked it than hated it, and I actually kind of wanted Mattel at the time to take down the video. However, something happened. As I got older, I realized I needed to face my fears. So I faced my fears with a couple of videos, like a couple of creepy Thomas videos, like Thomas and the Children. That creepypasta scared the crap out of me. I faced my fears with that video, and I learned I need to face my fears with Shed 17. So this is what I was gonna do. I was going to watch a video of someone reacting to Shed 17. No wait, that's not what I did first. No wait. First, I went on to onto the Shed 17 wiki, looked at the transparent, I think I said it wrong, transparent, no, transcript, I think, version of Shed 17. It basically just said the lines of dialogue that were said in Shed 17. I read it, then I looked at some of the pictures, then I reacted to someone else reacting to Shed 17, only without the footage, and then, reacted to a person reacting to Shed 17 with footage, and lastly, I reacted to Shed 17 as a whole. Yeah, sorry that story sounds so complicated, but I can't remember that whole lot from the past, so yeah. That's my backstory with Shed 17. Used to hate it, now I love it. Yeah. I may do a review on Prodigy 1 sometime, but whatever. Okay, now to the little story of Shed 17. So, this is how it begins. It begins with a narrator talking about how, kids grew up with tons of friends and all that crap. And then they're like, this story is dark and we're gonna ruin your childhood once and for all. So they tell a story about this man called Wilhelm Goetzer who was working for Adolf Hitler at the time. And did some terrible experiments and some crap. I can't remember that whole much from Shed 17. But yeah. Sooner or later, Wilhelm has a kid called Hans Goetzer. He becomes some sort of brainiac smart kid. And he studies some kind of thing called biofusion. And if you watch Shed 17, then you would know where this is leading to. So yeah, Hans Goetzer, studies science and all that crap. And at one point, he gets married to some woman. I forgot her name, but yeah. And then they have a child called Thomas. Yeah, it's legit just a child with one of Thomas's classic series faces on it. So yeah, that's weird. So, Thomas, the boy, has an interest in trains, much like his dad. And he would, record trains every day and all that crap. Alright, I forgot to say, this Shed 17 is basically a documentary or mockumentary of, the Thomas Tank Engine series. And the people who are, being interviewed are... what's her face? Keith Hartley, who is going to be my right-hand story. My name's Keith Hartley. And a German scientist who was later going to be the antagonist of Prodigy 1, spoilers, called Dr. Owen Roof. I am nuts. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. Okay, back on the story. One day, Thomas and his fat friend, that's what they call him, Thomas's fat friend, they're, walking, apparently they're gonna be late for something, I don't know, looks like they were going to school, but they probably weren't, and Thomas, he wanted to record a train that was going by, he was like, 11:45 is coming through soon, and his friend, kept on forcing Thomas, well, he wasn't forcing him, but he said that they were going to be late for something. Still don't know. I'm just going to assume that it's school. And at one point, Thomas goes on the train tracks. No, I'll use my fingers as Thomas. Thomas goes on the train tracks, then points his camera to the left, then to his friend who was looking to his right, not giving a crap about Thomas about to be run over, and then... prepare to meet Amtrak in Seattle! Then a train hits Thomas, and then his arm just goes flying off his freaking body. So yeah, of course, Thomas dies, and his dad is mortified by this. And for the next few months, or at least past year or so, Hans and his father Wilhelm locked themselves in shed number 17, and then start creating some sort of experiment to bring Thomas back from the dead. A few months later, Thomas comes out, and he's a train. And yeah, everyone is amazed or horrified. One woman faints, and then Keith Hartley barfs in the background. So yeah, of course, this spread across the media about Thomas becoming a train or a tank engine, whatever. He's still a train. I don't care what other people say. Keith Hartley gets interviewed by random news. No, not news reporters. No, they're not news reporters. Just random people about his experience when first seeing Thomas the Tank Engine, and every single one of them, he's barfing his mind out. And that doesn't sound right. He's just barfing. So yeah, yeah. So Thomas hits a train. Many people asked if he was going to be working on the railway, and Thomas's father and grandfather said no, because it could kill him or something like that. And because of, people hearing about someone's son being murdered and then brung back from the dead into a train, they thought other people were like, hey, I want to be made into a train too. And so they're like asking the Gertzer family if they could be turned to a train. However, they all denied this. But then Sir Tom Had, who was called Fat Beef in a lot of times in the movie, I shouldn't call it a movie, in a documentary, is like, I can make some quick books on this. So I think he like buys Thomas or something. He has him working on this railway, and he works completely fine. And then Sir Thomas Hat starts to make his own engines, or at least get the idea. So the first engine that's biofused is James. So he didn't have the money as some of these other people had, and just agreed to sign his life away. So Sir Tom Hat was like recording footage of James being tested out on Gordon's Hill, and he's struggling and stuff, but he's fine in the end. James doesn't die in the movie like the others, but he does die in the sequel, spoiler alert. Next is Edward. So I still don't have his gender. Edward was the first of her problems, and apparently this was supposed to be like a deleted scene from the show, where Edward pulls up to the Vickers station and whistles to the kids on a platform. He's like, beep, beep, whistle Edward, and Ringo Starr's voicing. He's like, thank you very... Ah! And blood just shoots out of his whistle. It's so morbid, but it's so funny, and then the blood just sprays on the children. I know I shouldn't be laughing, but I think it's funny. Anyways, now, before Prodigy 1 came out, a lot of people, including myself, thought that Edward died from this. Because, it just came out of nowhere and he's not seen for the rest of the movie. But, turns out that Edward didn't die. But, probably just lost some of his blood. But no, Edward dies in Prodigy 1 along with Jane. So, that's sad. So, the real engine to actually die first was Mavis. So, Harold had an obsession with aircraft and was biofused into a helicopter. I don't know how they meshed his face into the metal of the helicopter, but they managed to do it. So yeah, Harold was biofused into a helicopter. The experiment went well. However, they prevented him from flying after an incident that happened before his biofusement happened or whatever. So, Mavis was the first diesel engine to be created on the railway, and something that happens in Prodigy 1 that doesn't make sense later on, that happens in Shed 17, whatever. Okay, so, when Mavis is first fueled up, her engine, I think, catches on fire, and then she burns to death, and, yeah, she dies, and her face is scary, in the movie at least. So that's why Harold isn't allowed to fly. So yeah, and unfortunately, other countries start to have the use of biofuse other engines, and yeah, crap starts going on, and Thomas's grandfather, Wilhelm, can't take the stress anymore, so he commits suicide by shooting himself in the mouth. And he's made out of sawdust because it's supposed to be a joke, because in the classic series, or at least in the model series, the humans in the show were made out of wood, so yeah, but that doesn't explain why the engines, who used to be wooden figures, have blood. Whatever. Oh right, one more death. I completely forgot about Percy. I don't know why I have Toby here, but yeah. Percy's death is short. So apparently all the engines who were failed experiments were put on display or some crap, and they were too ill to work or were already dead. And as for Percy, from what I heard, he died during his experiments, and one point he's like being checked over by people, and then his eyes roll to the back of his head, literally, and then his skeleton kind of like twists, and then his face almost falls down. So yeah, Percy was already dead, but he died again. Okay, he died again. Talk about the rest of the story in the next part. Oh my god, I can't talk. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. I can hardly speak because I've been talking for a while and now I have a lot of saliva in my mouth. See you guys next time.